Okay, everyone.
Windows.
Welcome to the Planning and Infrastructure Committee for Wednesday, the 12th of February. To councillors, to members of the public, and to those online. Please, can everyone make sure their telephones are either switched to silent or turned off altogether? Our first item is to receive any apologies.
No, you have a full committee.
We have a full committee. Any declarations? No. The minutes of the meeting of the 8th of January. Can someone propose?
I'll propose
A seconder? Councillor Nixie. Okay, all those in favour? Yeah. Now we'll get on to the planning applications.
Okay, thank you, Chair. The first application is 44 to 46 Queen Street. Bear with me. Replacement of windows to rear and side elevations. It's opposite the conservation area, called in by Councillor Austin. Thank you, members. Have liberty.
So this is just the old Academy One Evans building. So the changes are to the windows, the existing are timber, and then the proposed is UPVC. Okay. There is an objection from the conservation officer on the windows on the ones opposite the conservation area, but they're not opposed to the ones opposite the hospital.
Do you have a picture of the building?
Just been there.
The street view.
Yeah, the street view. Yes, Councillor Austin.
So I called this in because this is part of the building that goes right round that corner and has beautiful curved glass corner windows. And it's the conservation officer has said much better than I could what I think this is part of the creeping UPVCisation of that whole street, and it's a beautiful old building with lovely windows, and fair enough round the back where nobody can see it, the conservation officer saying more or less do what you like, but for the rest it needs to be preserved looking as it looks. I can't see a justification for putting UPVC on any of those frontages that are visible within the conservation area. It seems to me to be a step back.
Do they claim that they're rotten, the existing windows?
No.
I don't say.
Chair. I totally support what Councillor Austin has just said, and I think we should object to it on the grounds of the effects on the conservation area, although it's opposite. But I think, as you quite rightly say, something like that we make it stand on, and so I fully support it. I would propose that unless you wanted to.
Well, can I just say that we looked at this in quite a lot of detail at the RH, Heritage Design Forum. And one of the things we were really concerned about, again, was exactly what both of you have said, but also that there isn't enough detail about the type of window they're going to replace it with. So even if we're accepting that the Heritage Office's view that they shouldn't be doing UPVC on the front bit that faces the conservation area, they should be wooden sash that look similar to the ones they've replaced. But even on the side, because on the plans there's such a mixture of different types of windows going to be placed in that building, there wasn't enough detail and there wasn't sort of live images of what the windows will actually look like. All we've got to go on is pencil drawings. So I, for one, think we should reject it, first of all, on that, but also with the added piece that we really need to see what the windows are going to be replaced with. What I'm also told on the side of the building is there's good examples of crystal glazed windows, and I know they're they're old-fashioned and they're not very environmentally friendly because they're not double glazed. But there are metal equivalents of quickle glazed windows, and again, I wouldn't be unopposed of replacing those quickle glazed windows, but I'd want to see what type of aluminium window they're going to be replaced with.
Well, the design forum says they could be refurbished.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's quite an effort to do that because,
So I would be happy with your motion, just with the added bit that we need more details about what the windows will look like.
Fair comment.
Okay.
Fair comment.
Right, so do we have a proposal?
Yes.
And there's
Motion, yeah. Doesn't really matter, but
Which.
either way around.
Councillor Austin,
Councillor Austin forward, so.
Councillor Alban seconded. Our motion is
Objection on the grounds of the effect on the conservation area and more details.
Adjacent conservation.
Adjacent, sorry, yeah, didn't say that. But more details on what the windows will actually look like. I don't know if you wanted to expand on that.
Well, and with no objection to the rear.
Is that okay with you, councillor?
Yes, that's absolutely fine. That's the mirrors what the conservation officer does in the picture. Those windows just look at the car parks.
Yeah.
all those in favour.
Thank you, Chair. Move on to the second application, which is a listed building as well as a normal application, but it's the same wording. The St. Cloud Victoria Parade, erection of a 5-storey extension and opening up of existing basement to provide 10 self-contained residential units and 9 apart hotels, spa, coffee shop, function room and conference facilities following the creation of a new entrance and demolition of an existing extension and outbuilding. This is an amended application, so we're looking at the details of the windows, additional heritage response and traffic survey. Thank you. I'll hand over to Dean.
We've had this one before, so we've got the existing plans.
Sorry.
So you've got the existing, the original proposed application with the balconies. And then you've got.
Sorry, Dean, can we just.
Again, sorry.
Hold fire. Just hold fire, let our new attendees settle down. Right?
So you've got the original, that included a balcony at the front there, for the flat 2 and flat 3. And the amendment is to remove the balcony for one of those and just have it all existing, so that just so it was top floor terrace removed, flat 3 balcony reduced, top floor building line amended to reflect the existing building.
Right.
So that's the amendment for that one.
Right.
So you can see the original had the balconies there from either side, and now they've extended out. So they're giving more floor space to flat 2 and flat 3, 10 metres squared for flat 2, 8 for flat 3. So you can see here, and then they're still giving little balconies, but they're extending the space out.
Tiny. Yeah. Okay.
So that's for the drawings, and then you've got the parking survey which has been added, which shows the parking manoeuvres of the car park. And then you've got the heritage statement, which is you've got designs of the windows and the balcony glass that's been included, and then you've got the heritage statement that they've had created as part of the additional surveys.
Okay. Thank you.
Should we hear the,
Oh, I was just going to say, could we have ask the residents to.
Mr Lister, would you like to do your 3 minutes, please?
Put the timer on.
That's all right.
No, it doesn't.
We'll throw something at you.
Thank you very much for allowing me to speak. I'm Mark Lister and I live at the first house nearest the hotel on Albert Road on the listed terrace. But I'm here to speak on behalf not only of those who've come along this evening, but the 38 members who've individually joined the WhatsApp group in the neighbourhood and of course the households behind them, so many more than that, over 50 have countersigned the letter that will be coming to the TDC when we know the date and the timings for that. And then there's 400 on the petition, and I'm speaking on their behalf as well. They and we are angry at the impact on them of the proposed extension. The catastrophic loss of light, daylight and sunlight lost by the massive bulk of the 5-storey high, 4 flat wide extension right across the whole plot. Even the revised plans do not in any way address the loss of light for many. The sun rises over the sea and moves across during the day, right where the extension is planned, so it will cause a major loss of light and sunlight up Albert Road, up the backs of Thanet Road, across on Gateway Court and behind on Truro Road. It's a 5-storey bulk that seriously harms the outlook and general appearance of the area. The 2 beautiful listed buildings, listed in 1988, that's the Albert Road Terrace, a Pugin, and the hotel, with its lovely green space, the pub garden. It's the only pub garden on the East Cliff. Actually, there's nothing that compares in Ramsgate. The 19 flats, some are hotel apartments and some private, will bring a lot more cars than what's allowed for in the parking. And it will exacerbate the highway safety realities and the parking problems. A survey done at 1 a.m. at night in January does not reflect those realities. The reality of an emergency ambulance that was unable to get down Albert Road on a Granville Theatre evening, that actually happened. The realities for a family with heavy shopping having to park loads of streets away in the daytime to get back to their house, let alone in the summer. And the serious risk of pedestrian injury or even actually a death from double parking outside the hotel that already happens for drop-offs and the consistent double yellow line parking all around. There's the heritage aspect too. The revised plans and 4-page letter do not change a 5-storey block that ruins the existing historic perspective of the whole area, loved by many hundreds of passers-by on the promenade each day. Because the modern plate glass frontage and the glazed lift shaft bear no relation to the beauty of Pugin's architecture. So we call on the councillors to reject this proposed damaging, bulky extension and preserve the value of this part of the East Cliff. Thank you.
Want me to stand up?
No, you don't have to.
It's difficult to follow Mark. Thanks, Mark. So I'm, as you know, one of the councillors for East Cliff Wall, where the St. Cloud Hotel is located. My name is Councillor Huxley. I wish to object to this planning application following on from a large number of emails and phone calls that I've received from local residents over the past, since July? And so regarding their concerns about this development and the negative impacts it will have on their health and well-being. To date, as Mark said, 401 people have signed the online petition against the extension to the hotel. And as you can see from the number of residents here tonight, there are a lot of local people who are concerned about this application. There have been 64 objections registered on the TDC planning portal, and a small number of comments supporting the application are mainly concerned with the proposed installation of swift bird boxes, which, while welcome, doesn't mitigate the reasons for objecting. So there's a large number of objections. My main objections to the application are as follows. The size and scale of the 5-storey extension will have an adverse impact on the neighbouring properties, as Mark has said, particularly for the residents living at 3 to 13 Albert Road, which is a Pugin designated listed terrace. The rear of the proposed extension will be about 2 metres only from the garden wall of 3 Albert Road, and the height of the extension will dominate these houses and their gardens, giving a sense of enclosure. There will therefore be a significant loss of light, as Marcus said, to the properties in Albert Road, both internally in their back gardens, particularly for numbers 3, 5 and 7. And this will be much worse in the winter months, obviously. These issues have not been properly addressed in the applicant's daylight and sunlight assessment report, which I find very hard to understand. No light readings were taken in the houses or gardens of the properties we've been talking about, and the confirmed loss of light in the bedrooms of those properties have been downplayed in the report. The TDC Conservation Officer's report recommends refusal of the application, as it goes against Thanet's local plan guidelines for planning applications in a conservation area with surrounding listed buildings due to the extension's overall scale, location and setting. The planned extension does not match the existing building, as Mark said, which is Grade 2 listed. This is most clearly seen in the window design and materials to be used, and the use of glazed balconies and the glazed link between the two structures. This is all out of keeping with the rest of the conservation area and the surrounding listed buildings, such as the Albert Road Pigeon Terrace with its distinctive oriel window. The loss of the privately owned green space at the side of the building would be detrimental to the local community who have enjoyed using it for nearly 100 years. Therefore, I request kindly that the RTC Planning Committee, as a consultee in the TDC planning consultation process, objects to this application on the grounds of the impact on neighbours, sense of enclosure and loss of light and green space, all of which are contrary to Thanet's local plan policies on 1, sustainable design, QDO1, general design principles, QDO2, and living conditions, QDO3. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I called this in for a couple of reasons. One was just so we could see exactly what the amendments were, and two, because at the previous meeting that we had, the agents were here for the applicant and were allowed to speak. So it was wanted the residents to have their chance to say, to counteract what was said before. Now, we previously, when we first looked at this, we didn't have a problem with the design, and everybody's entitled to their opinion about design of buildings, whether they fit in, whether they don't. I mean, centre of London has many listed buildings and many brand new buildings right next to Grade 1 listed buildings. So that in itself is not really an issue for me. And my comments at that meeting were for us to respond to the application in relation that we think the extension of the building in itself, design-wise, basically fitted in what was there with some additions. However, the main point of the rest of that was for the officers, because we can only ask for the officers who are dealing with the application to listen, to take every step possible to ensure that the residents nearby, which is your good self and the other ones next to you, are not affected by it. Now, it's pretty clear, exactly what Councillor Huxley said, that you will be massively affected by it. Yeah. So, I think, as far as we're concerned, obviously, I personally, I haven't seen the officers' reports. The planning officer's report is not out yet, as far as I'm aware. And so we haven't had a chance to see that, and that is why at Thanet District Council you can't make your mind up until you've seen that, until you've seen the report, until you've seen all the consultees and what everybody's saying and what the residents are saying, and then to make that decision based on all the evidence put before you. It's different for Ramsgate Town Council because as consultees then we can say what we feel and put in exactly what that is to Thanet District Council and what we would expect to be considered. We can only ask them to consider what we say. So I'm quite happy with what I've heard this evening, but I want to hear what other members have to say. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, I'd like to say, I've read all the objections. The valid ones, I think, from a planning point of view, are the loss of light and the sense of enclosure. The business about parking, that is not going to be valid. And a lot of your troubles come from the Granville parking, I think, which will still be there, whether this happens or not. Somebody has objected to the noise from guests from the hotel, which is something that you will get in a town, in a building next to a hotel and pub and restaurant. The loss of sea view is not a planning issue. The loss of open space, I don't think that's, in my opinion, is too relevant, because you've got acres of open space across the road on the seafront, on the promenade. And the loss of green space, noise and dust from the construction, fair enough, that will be annoying, but there will be a construction plan if this goes ahead. On the other side, I feel that this is an investment in Ramsgate. People willing to put money in to actually, we're short of hotel spaces in Ramsgate, and somebody is willing to put money in. There will be some jobs, obviously not a lot, and I don't object whatsoever to the elevations, sorry, losing it. So that is my opinion, and I think I'm generally in favour of the development. Councillor Huxley.
I'm not councillor.
Oh, you're first, sorry.
For those people listening, this is just a point of fact. This isn't me saying one way or the other, but I'm led to believe that the area that is going to be built on was bomb damage during the war, and the original building was as almost as seen in the footprint. So I'm led to believe that the height that they're going to was the height that it was before the bomb damage.
Am I able to say something?
No.
I'm afraid no.
That is wrong.
Okay.
I don't know.
So, sorry. And that's what we have been informed by, just so that you're aware. And so because we can only consider things on planning terms, whether we like it, whether we don't like it. We don't do any of that. Literally, we have constraints as to what we can, look at something on. So, for example, this evening's comment is the amendment on something. So we can't just talk about parking. We can't talk about something other. We literally on our agenda at the moment, we are looking at the amendment of those. The balcony and so on and so forth. That is all we can vote on this evening, just so that you're aware. Whether you like it or not, that's just the process. But I just wanted to say that, so that you've got some background of why the decision would be for something like this. If it was a bomb damaged site, so it never used to be a green, it used to be a building, it just happened to be a green after the bomb damage, and so on and so forth. Then there's weight towards that building going back, not from us. I'm saying it in planning terms. Personally, I'm sorry, I can see either side of it. If I was living near it, I wouldn't want it at all. In terms of regeneration for Ramsgate, then yes, I can understand it. Do I think that it's a nice design? Well, it doesn't matter whether I do or not. It's not the worst design if it's trying to be in keeping. But I can really understand your concerns, and I'm very glad you're here this evening to be able to put your point of view across, because that is exactly what we want to hear. So thank you for that.
Austin, sorry.
Could I be Councillor Austin? Is that okay?
I think what I want to say is pretty much the same as Anne-Marie really, because when we talked about this before, I was quite happy with it. I was for it from the point of view of the things that you have both mentioned, which is we need more hotel space in Ramsgate. We need a conference facility in Ramsgate. It will be an investment in the town. It will create, albeit a modest number of jobs. They have thought a bit about parking, and it will restore that bit of the building, which at the moment has the very unpleasant single-storey extension, etc., which, in my view, is damaging to the overall appearance of the beautiful building. It will bring it into a context similar to the Granville further down, so it will be all in keeping all along the seafront. On the other hand, I am very concerned about the impact of the light in particular on neighbours.
Yes.
And I do think that that is something that needs to be considered. I'm afraid there is little that can be done about parking, and parking is a problem with so many applications at the moment. And there is a parking strategy that's been developed at Thanet District Council, but it's not going to be a strategy that's going to solve the fact that we've got narrow streets and parking. So there are issues there, as there are with so many planning applications. The other thing I think we need to point out, and I'm not sure whether we've made this clear, we are just a consultee, we make no decisions. And I mean, we are such a relatively unimportant consultee that sometimes in the past decisions have been made at Thanet before it comes to us.
Yeah.
So that has improved in my time on this council. But all we can do is recommend. So I'm very torn on this one because I live just along the road from there. I use the St. Cloud myself. I can see the benefits of having more happening there, but I can also see how it would be, particularly if you live in that beautiful terrace on Albert Road, what impact it would have on you. Councillor Shonk.
Well, we sat and listened to that, and it looked very impressive. Although I do think that a lot of the councillors did bring up the fact, what about the neighbours? What I've heard tonight is a different light on the whole. We like new builds and the pressure's on in Thanet. And when I listen to anybody that likes Pugin, I mean, we don't really push our history and heritage enough. And my mind has been changed by the fact that we're residents here, and as far as I'm concerned, we should represent residents. Because at the end of the day, this might be taken away from us with TDC anyway, because they might not they might be abused anyway. But anyway, all I'd say is, it's not a waste of time people turn up. We do like to listen. I do anyway. And I think all the others do. But the pressure's on. You've changed my mind. I did, all of us, talk about the residents. It's a place I do use. We're not going to afford a pint. But I do concern myself. The beauty of that place, and it would look like, I do take on board. You're going to lose all that light. And let's face it, we need light because we had such a few awful months. And who wants to work in the shade all day? I mean, people don't realise if you've got a sunshine property and that sun's all the time. I mean, people walk around Ramsgate in February and March with a suntan. You won't be, unfortunately. This, our saving might be TDC by sticking to the original, by refusing it. I'm not ducking out of this. I've had my say, but you did change my mind. The fact that you've got so many people here, and that's what we should represent. Thank you.
I'm not going to go over most of what other people have said, because I broadly agree with everything. But I will thank the residents for turning up, because I think it gives us a more balanced view. That's what would normally happen at TDC. We would have balanced views and the chance to listen for people, for the applicant and the people that are not happy, and sometimes people who are happy with the applicant. I think I broadly think the design's okay, but again, it's not really a planning matter, is it? But I do think there are unanswered questions you've raised. Well, that's not a planning matter. If the design is okay, none of us really object to the design, but that whole thing there's a load of unanswered questions. Certainly for me, the loss of Greenland is important because they then have to produce 10% net biodiversity gain. There doesn't seem to be much in the way of addressing that particular issue, and I'm not sure how they're going to find 10% net biodiversity gain based on what they're losing. There is the light issue. A number of us do sit on TDC planning. I do think that the survey carried out at 1 o'clock in the morning, all too often the applicants are submit, and it's not just this application, a lot of applications submit evidence which I find is shockingly bad. And we should be rejecting planning applications, or at least asking them to go back and do it again at a sensible time to make their evidence more realistic, more in context. So I won't be supporting this because I think there's unanswered questions, and if it does get to TDC, then one of the things I certainly will be asking for immediately, and hope that 6 other people follow me, is a site visit, because I think the site visit will give us a much better idea of what's going on.
Okay, Councillor.
I would just say to you, Councillor Bean, you need to be careful.
Oh, yeah, predetermining myself.
Predetermining yourself, asking for a site visit.
I'm going to abstain.
Asking for a site visit. I think what's clear here is that we do have things for it and things against it. But I would say to the residents who are affected, seriously affected, I mean, not that they just don't like it and live two streets away, that will hold no weight at all. But those who live near to it, very closely to it, the best grounds of defence for you is the effect of the closeness of the extension that comes up to your property within a few metres, and the effect that will have on you living there, and the effects of having a loss of light. Those are the two main things for you. As far as the open space is concerned, there's nothing stopping the current owners to decide to plant a load of trees around here so you can't see down there at all, and to take all the grass up. Nothing to stop them doing that, and to put a load of concrete down. So I'm just saying that in itself is not something, and I think the chair said opposite you've got all much as open space as you actually would require in your whole life there. So I think what we have to do is to do exactly what Councillor Nixon said. We are here to discuss the actual amendments. However, I don't think the amendments in itself change anything to what's there. But there's nothing stopping us as well from saying that we are changing our stance of Ramsgate Town Council following hearing from the residents, which we haven't heard from before, to say that we have some very, very serious concerns about the impact on the immediate neighbours in Albert Road. And I think I would actually propose that, Chair.
I second that.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
So what's the motion?
Ramsgate Town Council changes its stance following hearing from residents. I think we should put that in. RTC has very serious concerns about the effect on the neighbours.
In respect of
Light.
loss of light and impact of an enclosure of the extension.
Yeah, so it's everything you've said within that motion, which I'll word for you.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So
Was that you?
Okay, well, we vote on that motion. All those in favour? Right, I'm abstaining because I'm in two minds, and there's none against.
and that's on both applications, Chair. That's on both of the applications.
Yes.
When I submit the comment online, it will, each of those applications will have that same comment, yes.
Cool.
Okay. So,
We vote now.
If you want.
just that. Okay,
Just so that the public are aware, you're welcome to stay for the rest of it if you want to go.
members, the date of the next meeting, if you don't mind me carrying on with the meeting, the date is Wednesday, the 12th of March at 7 p.m. Thank you.
Getting close.